Let's talk about how to create your learning objectives. Remember, learning objectives are statements that describe what learners should be able to do after taking your course. Start by making a list of the concepts your learners would need to know to meet their needs you identified earlier and be proficient in your course topic. For example, one concept I want learners to know after taking this course is why practice activities are important to learning. Once you have your list of concepts, think about what your learners should be able to do for each one. Do they just need to remember a particular concept you're sharing, or do they need to apply that concept to a task? One framework for organizing concepts into levels of knowledge is Bloom's taxonomy. In Bloom's taxonomy, there are 6 levels: remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. For each concept or skill in your list, categorize it into one of these 6 levels based on what you want learners to be able to do with the concept or skill. In my example, I want my learners to understand why practice activities are important to learning. Next, use a descriptive verb that describes the level of knowledge you chose for each concept and explains what learners will be able to do with that knowledge. In my example, I want students to understand why practice activities are important to learning. However, understand is a pretty vague description. What does that really mean? To clarify, I could use verbs like describe, explain, or discuss, because these actions would show that the learner understands the concept. The last step in writing your learning objectives is adding more information to indicate why or how learners will demonstrate that skill or concept. In my example, I want learners to explain why practice activities are important to include in every learning experience. Now, I'd like you to try writing learning objectives for your course. I've attached a worksheet in the resources for this lecture to walk you through this process. You'll start by making a list of the skills or concepts you want your learners to know. Then you'll identify the level of knowledge you want them to have for each skill or concept and choose a verb that describes that level of knowledge. Finally, you'll write your learning objective, including additional information that describes why or how learners will demonstrate their knowledge. The worksheet also includes a description of what learning objectives are, Bloom's taxonomy, and a list of verbs that align to each level of knowledge in Bloom's taxonomy. Your learning objectives are most beneficial to you to help you design your course, but they can also benefit learners by setting expectations for what they'll get out of the learning experience. So, when you've completed this exercise, I recommend adding your learning objectives to the intended learners area in your draft course in the What Will Students Learn in Your Course field so that you're accurately communicating with learners about what's covered in your course.